Welcome to Fireside Yankees. My name is Alex and my co-host here, Ryan Garcia. And today we want to discuss 5 things we need to see from the New York Yankees to finish the regular season. Now, of course, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates coming to town today. The Yankees have a really good opportunity to collect some more wins. We're 5.5 games up in the AL East. The Mets just sweep the Pirates, and we want to see the Yankees do the same thing. We need to extend that lead, give ourselves a little bit more of a cushion. But there are some inconsistencies currently plaguing the team that we want to see corrected, or at least kind of normalize themselves over the next couple of weeks. And the first one that we're going to start off with is the closer position. That's a spot that's been a little bit spotty, for lack of a better term. The last couple of weeks, Clay Holmes has degraded a bit. I want to discuss that, what's going on with him. We'll discuss the other keys here, leading up to the end of the regular season, which is about 16 games away. But Ryan, before we dive into Clay Holmes, this closer spot and kind of his inconsistencies lately, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I think today is a very important day for the Yankees with Bader coming back. It's an important series for the Yankees. I believe Severino's also going to come back during this series. So, look at Holmes. He's a guy who's struggled a lot lately. I discussed recently in a video talking about who the Yankees, should have at the closer spot. I'm not as confident in Holmes as I was in the first half, but I still do believe he's a good reliever. I think it's hard to have great stuff and, kind of not figure it out in a sense. Holmes is someone who we know has a great sinker. The slider is really good. He's throwing 2 variations of a slider. He's throwing a sweeper and a gyro slider. The gyro slider has a little more depth. The sweeping slider has more of that horizontal movement, that kind of video game movement. That gyro slider seems to be something he's trying to work with to help with lefties. Lefties have hit a lot better against him lately. They've worked walks against him. They don't really strike out against him. And there is a correlation between depth, which is that vertical drop, and getting strikeouts against opposite-handed bats for righties. So we see that correlation, lower WOBA totals, higher whiff rates. You can see why Holmes is trying to tinker with that pitch. If he lands the command of that pitch, I think it can be really devastating. Even if he doesn't, he's really good against right-handed hitters still. So you can definitely look at him as someone you can use against righties if need be. But I don't look at Holmes as someone who should be handed the closer spot just by the Yankees don't really have a set closer. I think it's fine to not have a set closer considering the bullpen depth. You have Efros coming back. Efros has been money when he's been healthy. You have Lonnie Peralta. He's been money for most of the season. Loaiza's pitched a lot better lately. Those are 4 guys right there with closer experience that you can put in any situation to try to get you some outs. So the Yankees don't have to close by 1 rep. I think they just go with whatever lanes fit the best for them. And for Holmes, it seems to be those righty-heavy lineups that he performs the best against. And against tough lefties, that's why you have Lonnie Peralta. That's why you have, Efros, who has reverse splits. He pitches better against lefties than he does against righties. If you need to go to another lefty, maybe you look at Britton potentially, but I'm not really sure about that. Marinacio handles lefties well, so that's also a good option there. So the Yankees definitely have the depth to get through a postseason without a set closer in mind. It really never plays out the way we want to play it out with closers anyways. How many times are you going to have the perfect 9th inning situation to bring in a closer? It's not as often nowadays than it used to be. Especially with how explosive offenses are with their home run capabilities. So Holmes, I think, can get himself right, but I don't think he has to close every game for the Yankees to be successful. I think they can kind of go by committee there and kind of mitigate the issues they've had with their consistencies lately.
Yeah, I was kind of diving into Clay Holmes and what he's done the past couple of weeks. And, you've probably seen it as well. His numbers are just fluctuating like crazy. And a lot of it has to do with a huge sway in pitch usage. His pitch usage, obviously, sinker slider combination is his go-to. That's his primary stuff. Have seen just wild changes. And I don't necessarily understand. It has to be something to do with Matt Blake and the coaching staff changing this up, because a change of this magnitude doesn't logically make sense. When he was performing so well, he was so dominant. Why did they reduce his sinker by almost 30%, right? So his sinker dropped from 90.2% usage in July to 63.8% usage in September. His slider increased from 9.8% to 36.2%. It doesn't make sense, right? He was absolutely lethal in the first couple months of the season, and now he's fallen off. And you've said in the past that the Yankees love that slider. They love to be slider centric team. But I think they've kind of messed with some of their pitchers because of this. And maybe it's possible that they wanted to get his slider to a point where it was just really, really good. And, he was really feeling comfortable with it, and then revert back to what they were doing earlier on in the year, where come the playoffs, he's heavily throwing that sinker. And I don't think fatigue is an issue here, right? I personally don't feel like fatigue is an issue, because his velocity from August to September with his sinker is up almost a full mile an hour. It's up from 97 to 97.7 miles an hour. So that would indicate that I don't think his arm's getting tired. I think he's actually ramping up right now. I think he's actually looking good in terms of velocity. His spin rate for his sinker has even increased. So, sitting here kind of wondering what's going on with Clay Holmes, I think that they're messing with some things. I think that they're kind of trying to do some things with him so that he is ready to use some pitches, because the massive swings in pitch usage don't necessarily make a lot of sense to me. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I don't really get it. I feel like it doesn't make any sense, but maybe they have a reason.
Yeah, so Holmes' sinker is better against lefties than his slider is. I think, the numbers, the results have shown that, they don't strike out against the sinker, but they don't strike out against the slider or against Holmes in general at all. They typically just pound the ball into the ground. One thing that's interesting about the increased slider usage is that the whole point of having, a gyro or sweeping slider is to help generate chases out of the zone, and that has not happened as these slider usage has jumped up to above 30%. The chase rate against is under 20%. The swing strike rate is under 10%. So, batters are laying off pitches, and they are not swinging and missing against Clay Holmes, which is definitely concerning, right? I think you kind of revert back to a more sinker heavy approach. You kind of adjust, you kind of react to how batters have reacted to your pitch usage changes. And as you mentioned, yeah, you got to go back to the sinker, right? I think that's his best pitch. I think, I think I understand the process behind going a little more slider heavy, but when the results haven't been there, and right now, I think I mentioned this yesterday's episode too, you're kind of chasing results here. You kind of need to just get Clay Holmes back to getting strong results and getting big outs, because, you can work on it in the offseason. You can work on it for next year. But right now, the Yankees need Clay Holmes. They don't need Clay Holmes they don't need Clay Holmes to be, a different guy just for the sake of being a different guy, because it might work. We need him to have the safest outcome. And that safest outcome could just be going back to what he did before with his sinker.
Yeah, heading over to kind of the second thing we want to see here moving forward is Harrison Bader ramping up. Obviously, he's actually supposed to come back today, if not tomorrow, against the Pittsburgh Pirates in the Homestead, which opens up a big question. Where does Oswaldo Cabrera go, right? The Yankees acquired Harrison Bader for Jordan Montgomery to play elite-level center field defense and to offer some pretty solid tools for the postseason. Really great base running. Obviously, the range he has defensively is next to none. And he has a little bit of underrated power. Hit 16 homers last year. I think he's only hit 5 this year, but he does have some power. Maybe the Yankees change up his approach toward, I think his strikeouts like 17.8%, the lowest it's been ever, and his walk rate's the lowest it's been. So maybe they say, hit strikes hard, be patient, wait for that pitch and hit them hard. Maybe they're able to unlock a little bit more power in his game using that mantra that, they've been kind of displaying across the board. But I'll tell you what, Cabrera, I don't think you can factor out right now. Who replaces him if you take him out of the lineup? Aaron Hicks. And I think they're kind of done with the Aaron Hicks experiment after a couple of years, seeing that he's been more polarizing than consistent. Oswaldo Cabrera, however, has been very good lately. I think he's hitting like 333 with a 48% on base rate over the last 7 days. He's been fantastic. So, he was fielding some fly balls in left field prior to Sunday's game against Milwaukee. I think that they're just going to transition him over to the left field position, since Judge will probably transition back to right field. I think that's the right move. I think like if Andrew Benintendi isn't healthy, you go with Oswaldo Cabrera. He's looking sharp. He's hit 2 homers this season already, showcasing some quality at bats. He had 3 walks, I think, 3 games ago. He's looking a little bit more patient. Like you mentioned, his chase rate is down tremendously. He's being more patient in the batter's box, and that's showcasing a little bit more production in terms of his statistical output. But, what are your thoughts? You think Cabrera plays in left field? I think kind of that's the easy decision, in my opinion.
I agree. They've given him reps out there. It's going to be an adjustment, of course. You just kind of hope to get league average defense from him, and that the bat continues to be better. As you mentioned, he's been a little more patient there. Cabrera, to me, is someone that I feel like I was excited about the bat, and I've been very decently surprised with the defense. Kind of like the inverse. I expected the bat to be a little more ahead in the defense, and the defense has been far ahead of the bat. So Cabrera in left field is it ideal? Would you rather have him in right field? Yes, but would I rather have Cabrera in left field than Hicks? Absolutely. The at bats I think are better from Cabrera. I think the defense is going to be as good with Cabrera. And I like having Cabrera in there over having Hicks. I think the upside is also better there. And then for Bader, I'm really excited about Bader. Harrison Bader is someone who is hitting very well on the road, away from Busch Stadium. His OPS plus is 124 in his career away from Busch Stadium. He's slugging a lot better away from Busch. I think 36 of his home runs of like 52 have come in, on the road. So it tells you, this is a guy who hits a lot better away from Busch. That tells you maybe Busch Stadium isn't necessarily the best ballpark for him. That's a very spacious ballpark. We went to St. Louis. There were a lot of balls that looked like they'd be gone anywhere else, but weren't gone at Busch. Not to, of course, say the ballpark isn't a fair ballpark. It's a pitcher's park, right? There are pitchers and hitters parks. We get it. But in terms of hitting home runs, I think Bader's going to see it's going to be a little bit easier in New York. I think the defense plays exactly to how you want it to play with Cabrera and Judge out there, because Cabrera and Judge are very arm-centric defenders. Those guys get a lot of their value defensively from their arm value. And of course, with Judge, he's just so freakishly tall that, it's literally like having, a center guarding the rim. He literally can just jump up and grab anything that's about to be a wall scraper in right field. So that their value isn't necessarily range per se. Bader's value comes from his range. He is the most rangy center fielder in baseball. I would make that claim, and I'd confidently make that claim. He can go out and make grabs and make plays and get to balls that most guys can't get to. And could you imagine with Judge and Cabrera out there who don't have bad range? That's just not their forte. With those two guys having good arms, a lot of sac flies won't be converted for other teams. A lot of balls that would drop normally won't be dropping for other teams. This pitching staff has been good at generating soft contact. This is a pitching staff that's going to love having Harrison Bader out there. People do not have to expect Bader to be a 3 or 4 hitter. This guy's going to be your 6 or 7 hitter. He's going to go out there and he's going to give you good at bats at that position. Think of the guys who've been hitting there, the Florials and the Castros and Hickses and the Duhars of the world, guys who are just not putting up good at bats. It's a quality of an at bat. It's so important to have an increase in that regard. Even if you're getting slightly better than league average offense, which isn't special, it's definitely an improvement. So I'm very excited for Harrison Bader. I'm very excited to see Cabrera getting reps in left field. I'm excited to see the Yankees going out and being aggressive in terms of, pushing guys out of the lineup who aren't performing well. I think that's something that they should look to do more often. I think that those are, decisions they really haven't made as frequently in the past, but they're done with the Aaron Hicks experiment. Like you said, that's it. It's over, right? You can say that if you get more playing time, you'll play better, but when you do get playing time, I see plays like the one you made against the Rays with Montas on the mound, where you let that ball drop first off, and then you're staring into the wall instead of going out and getting that ball. Cabrera's not going to do that to the Yankees. Bader's not going to do it to the Yankees. I'm not going to be seeing a guy who's going up there and looks lost from the left-handed side, from one side of the plate. I'm going out there and seeing a guy who's a quality professional hitter. And could Bader backfire? Sure. But you trust the process of him not backfiring over Hicks. And that's really all that matters when it comes to decision-making.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I think Bader is going to offer this team a ton of value, just at least defensively. And I think offensively, he can do some good things. When he gets on base, a third of his singles, like if you actually look at his singles, he had 42 singles this year before going down. He stole 15 bases. So if you look at those by the numbers, that means that a third of every single he hit, he stole another base. So a third of every single he hit, he essentially turned that into a double. If you're looking in that sense, he could have stole third base. But, if you actually look at him in the sense that, he got on first base and then he stole it, by those numbers, a third of every single he hit, he turned into a double, which is freaking awesome. That's what you call putting runners in scoring position. That is what the Yankees need. Somebody that can get to second base and he can score from a single because he's that fast and he's that athletic. So that's pretty exciting. But the next thing I want to talk about is Luis Severino and Frankie Montas, their individual health. So Montas had his MRI come back, I think yesterday, and the reports are that he's okay. The reports are that it's nothing serious. They didn't see anything bad. He should be fine. It seems to be just general soreness, nothing to be too concerned about. He should be ready for his next start. If not, maybe they'll push it a day or two, but that's all good. Severino's ramped up. He's hit 99 with his fastball in the minors. He's looked fantastic. He's about to make a return probably within the next day or two, which is also a great sign. They're going to slot him right back into the starting rotation. The only thing that I have to say about the Severino and Montas thing is that if Severino kicks some serious ass the rest of the way, if he comes in and dominates, I'm more comfortable giving him the number 3 slot in the starting rotation come the playoffs over Montas and maybe just using him as the 4th option or even like a bullpen guy, like their top bullpen guy, they mitigate some innings or whatever, but they'll probably go with a 4-man rotation at this point. But I think if Severino kicks some serious ass, I could totally see him taking that number 3 spot from Montas just simply because he has experience in the playoffs already, and just the consistency, and you want to see the continuity from some of these guys. So, what are your thoughts on Severino, Montas coming away healthy here, and your hopes and expectations for them moving forward?
If we get the Montas that was in Oakland, the Yankees are going to, and you get a Severino who's, what he was this season so far, you're going to win the World Series. I don't want to be like hyperbolic here, but if you get a guy who's like a low 3 ERA guy, and you add 2 of them to your rotation with high 90s fastballs and remarkable strikeout stuff, you're winning the World Series. It's as simple as that, right? If you have 4 really good starters, these are guys who, when they're at their best, are top 30, top 20 starters, you're going to win the World Series, right? They're going to probably score 3 or 4 runs a game. They have a lights out bullpen. Again, it's as simple as those 2 guys are so integral. They can make the Yankees World Series run out of World Series so unbelievably easy, because just think about what other teams are going to have to go up against, right? Most game 3 or 4 starters aren't guys with elite stuff or an elite track record, or, putting up, have the ability to go 7 shutty with 10 strikeouts. That's just not something that other teams have. The Yankees have the opportunity to have that. And in a postseason series, especially with Game 5 and Game 6, there's no travel day in between those 2. You're going straight into Game 6. So in an ALCS series where you're going to need your guys to go deep, you're going to need depth, those 2 guys are crucial for this Yankee team. We talked about the bullpen, how important that is. It is so unbelievably important to have those 2 guys ready to go. So Severino, Montas, very important piece to this team. And I think that those 2 guys, if you can get them back healthy, you're going to win the World Series. I'm going to confidently say this right now. If those 2 guys come back healthy, the New York Yankees will be racing the 28th title, and I'll be ready to go ahead and say it in November. I'll be ready to roll this clip back again if those 2 guys are healthy in early November when we win the World Series, if those 2 guys come back healthy.
Well, I hope they come back healthy then, because it seems like you're pretty confident we will win the World Series if they do. But the number 4 thing here that we want to see is DJ LeMahieu healthy, right? DJ LeMahieu playing normally, defensively, offensively, is one of the most impactful players on this team. He's got to be playing and benefiting. And, this is kind of a weird issue because the right toe issue he's been having, obviously he's on the injured list right now, but they're expecting him to return pretty soon. It's hard to tell if that's going to bother him the rest of the way, and I imagine it will. This is an injury that, probably isn't going away, probably more of just managing it. He said a couple days ago that defensively, it doesn't hurt him that much, but offensively, he's unable to twist his foot. He's unable to actually use his rotation and use that back foot. So that's kind of been a problematic situation for him, but I'm curious to see how he bounces back here. Ryan, how important do you think DJ is to this team? Obviously, I think he's probably one of our best players when he's playing well, but, we need to see the best version of him.
Yeah, DJ LeMahieu's the guy who, when he goes out and he's, hitting the way he should. This is a guy who was, when he was healthy, one of the best OPP players in baseball, right? The Yankees need a guy who can set the table. DJ LeMahieu sets the table against offenses. Benintendi's a guy who we may look at, when he comes back as a leadoff option. But the way I see it is that if you have LeMahieu and Benintendi the way they are, you lead off LeMahieu against lefties, you lead off Benintendi against righties, right? I like having high OBP guys in front of Judge. Could you imagine getting LeMahieu back with that 390 on base potentially? With Judge hitting the way he's hitting, what do you do as a pitching staff? You're going to be forced to pitch to a healthy LeMahieu, who is a very good hitter, has high contact rates, doesn't have a high swinging strike rate, very low chase rate. This is a guy who's going to make you grind out he's going to grind out at bats. And if you fail and let LeMahieu reach, now you're facing Aaron Judge, and that's an issue, right? And then you face Anthony Rizzo, and then you face another guy we'll talk about in the cleanup spot, and whoever is left in that lineup. That's a tough predicament to be in. Your lineup is just deeper with DJ LeMahieu in it, and your defense is very good with DJ LeMahieu in it, because you can put LeMahieu at third base. You don't necessarily have to start Donaldson, or even if Gleyber's something, you don't have to start Gleyber if you have LeMahieu there. So it presents options for the Yankee infield, and it really strengthens that top of the lineup, because the top lineup has not been what it should be when Judge isn't leading off.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting him on base early, him leading off, getting on base, and Aaron Judge batting him in is obviously an equation that has worked well for the Yankees in the past. But the number 5 thing here, another slugger to talk about, Giancarlo Stanton, man. He has been just god awful the last couple of weeks since coming back from that Achilles tendonitis. This is just a weird situation for Stanton, right? Like, what happens going forward? Is he still hurt? It kind of looks like he's in 130 this month with a 21.6% on base rate and 283 slugging percentage. This is not the Stanton that we know and love. This is another dimensional Stanton that doesn't know how to swing a baseball bat. He looks off balance. He has one hit in his last 4 games. He went through a little stretch where he had 4 consecutive games with hits in mid-September, but now he's really struggling again. Struck out 4 times on Saturday against Milwaukee. This is not the version of him that we want to see. He's in 130 at 25.9% on base rate in August, too. On the season, he's only hitting 209 now. And his on base rate has just plummeted to less than 30%. This is probably the worst season of his career by the numbers. If you look at his numbers, this is the worst season of his entire career, which is really sad considering the first half of the year was really great for him. And he looked so good. He made the All-Star team. He won the All-Star MVP during the game. He was just on pace to be another huge factor. But, you're looking at Josh Donaldson's offering more slugging capabilities than him right now. And that's a huge issue. I mean, Ryan, I imagine you also kind of buy into the idea that he's still injured because a healthy Stanton ramps up and we see progress from. This is just consistently bad every single day. What are your thoughts on that?
So here's the thing with Stanton. When Stanton's off, right? When Stanton's off, he is really cold. You kind of hope that, kind of like with the Yankees where they got so bad in August that, they were just kind of due to play better because you can't play so bad for so long. Stanton kind of reminds me of that in a sense. He just can't be this bad for this long. And if he really is hurt, I don't know why the Yankees are playing him through injury. You're running out of time to give him rest. So if you have an unhealthy Stanton in October, you're going to really blow a big opportunity to win a World Series. So if I'm the Yankees, if he's healthy, then I'm like, okay, you know what? He'll find his form. And hopefully that'll come late in the season, last week or 2 of the year, and then translate into October. He's important, man. You think about it. Judge, Rizzo, and Stanton, all of them going the way they should is formidable. You can't pitch to that, right? You really cannot pitch to that. It doesn't really matter what the rest of the lineup is. The rest of the lineup can be league average. If those 3 guys are where they should be, the Yankees are going to hit a lot of home runs in October, and they're going to score a lot of runs in October. They're going to force pitchers to make mistakes. They'll have guys on for other hitters in the lineup who, if they run into a hit or 2, or one of them get hot, one of them gets on a little bit of a roll, the Yankees are going to score a lot of runs. We know this team can pitch. I think we're both confident this team's going to pitch, even if they don't have the starters back healthy. They have such a deep bullpen. They can do an opener type of situation. They can ask their starters to kind of just give them 3 innings or such. We need this team to hit. You need a healthy Giancarlo Stanton. Could you imagine getting that monster postseason version of Giancarlo Stanton that we've been getting the last few years? It would be, with the way Judge is hitting, he's having, you could argue in terms of clean players, he's having the best season we'll ever see in the post-integration era. And we know that Stanton's important to this team. We know Stanton is a guy who, in any 2 to 3 week stretch, can go scorched earth and knock 10 or 12 home runs, something crazy like that, and win an entire postseason on his own. That 2020 Yankees team had no business going 5 games against the Rays team that was the number 1 seed in the American League. It was only because of Giancarlo Stanton. If you take away Giancarlo Stanton, you could argue that team loses in 3 or 4 games. He is the most important. He's been one of the most important bats for the Yankees in their postseason runs late in seasons. He's been crucial to this team. So I look at a guy like Giancarlo Stanton and say, if Giancarlo Stanton hits, I said this in the Rays series, if he hits, they'll win. They won that series. If Giancarlo Stanton hits, they'll win. That's just as simple as that. If the good players that are on this team play good, the Yankees will win because of a lot of good players, a lot of really good players. Have they all been healthy? No. But if those guys are healthy and they play good, the Yankees are going to win a lot, right? It's always been the issue with this team, health. We know that this team has always been a talented group of guys, but they've never been able to stay healthy throughout a whole season. And I think Stanton he's that last piece in that lineup where, honestly, if you just give me a healthy Judge and a healthy Stanton, I feel pretty confident the Yankees are going to score at least 4 runs a game because those guys are just terrifying at the dish. Those guys are just so good. Those guys are home run threats. It's not a matter of they just, they're hot. They get a couple singles here and there. They're hot and they hit 2 or 3 home runs here or there. So I'm not necessarily saying I'm confident that Stanton's going to get back to where he needs to be, but the impact, the difference between having Stanton a red hot Stanton and the Stanton we have right now is the difference between an ALDS knockout and, you see the banner right there, those guys celebrating, Jeter holding that trophy, the commissioner's trophy over his head. That's what we could be seeing with these guys if we have Stanton the way he should. I think these 5 things we talked about today, they're so important and they're not far-fetched either. These aren't unrealistic things. So, hopefully they go out and, these 5 things we can kind of see some sort of correction, whether it's 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5, doesn't have to even be all 5. They just need to get some of these things going for them, because this is a talented bunch of guys who are going to have a chance to win a World Series, because the American League is very much you versus the Astros versus the field, and then take your chance against an NL team. So we'll see.
Well, if the postseason started today, the Yankees would have to play the Astros in the first round there. So that's kind of unfortunate. We always run into them, but maybe this is the year we take them down. We obviously have not had the best luck against them, but we're more than a good enough team to overcome them, in my opinion. But guys, I'd love to hear your perspectives and opinions below in the YouTube comments about these 5 things specifically. More consistency from the closer spot, Harrison Bader ramping up and returning. Where does Oswaldo Cabrera play? Severino and Frankie Montas, your thoughts on them? DJ LeMahieu getting healthy, the impact he has, and of course, Giancarlo Stanton getting back to normal. Because like Ryan said, he could be the difference between winning a division series or not. He could be the difference between making it to the next round. He's that talented. He's that impactful. So hopefully we get the best version of him moving forward, my friends. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.